300
Please, I
years is
beg you,
long
show
enough to
mercy.
forget what hope feels
Mercy
like.
is a luxury we can't
Lucian
afford.
Blackwood stood at the highest tower of Obsidian Keep watching the moon rise over Nocturne Hollow. The same moon he'd watched rise 11,000 times. The same silver light that had witnessed every decade of his curse, every century of his exile from the one thing that made immortality bearable. The ability to feel. The wind carried the scent of snow and pine of the mortal world beyond his kingdom's borders. Once that scent had meant something. Freedom. Possibility. A life measured in heartbeats rather than eternities. Now it meant nothing. Still brooding, I see. He didn't turn. Morgana Vale's voice had become as familiar as his own thoughts over the centuries. She crossed the tower floor, her footsteps silent despite the stone. Ancient vampires moved like shadows. He should know. He was one of them now, whether he'd chosen it or not. The council convenes tomorrow night, she said. They expect your presence. They always do. Victor Ashford has requested an audience, something about bloodline rights and human custody law. Her tone carried amusement the way it always did when mortal concerns intersected with vampire politics. Apparently his brother's widow has fled with 3 half-blood children. Lucian's hands tightened on the stone balustrade. Half-bloods. Rare. Dangerous. Exactly the kind of complication the council loved to exploit. What does Victor want? The children, naturally. He claims the mother is unfit, unstable, that the Ashford bloodline deserves better than a human woman with a schoolteacher's salary and nowhere to run. Lucian turned then, studying Morgana's face. She was beautiful the way a blade was beautiful. Sharp, purposeful, deadly. She'd made him what he was during the American Revolution when he'd been a young justice of the peace who'd made the mistake of ruling against a vampire lord's land claim. Her revenge had been elegant. Turn him into the thing he'd opposed. Make him king of a kingdom he'd never wanted. Curse him so that he could never love, never feel, never escape. Unless he found his true mate. And if that mate rejected him, he would become something worse than cursed. He would become beast, mindless, lost. You're smiling, Morgana observed. How unusual. You haven't smiled in 70 years, not since that incident in Boston. He looked back at the moon. Victor Ashford will bring the woman here. She'll seek sanctuary in Nocturne Hollow because it's the only place on this continent where vampire law and human law coexist. She'll think she's running towards safety. And is she? Lucian felt it then. A pull, faint but unmistakable. Like a thread tugging at the center of his chest at the place where his heart had stopped beating centuries ago. The prophecy Morgana had spoken on the night she'd cursed him whispered through his memory. Your true mate will arrive when you least expect her. She will be mortal. She will be afraid. And she will have every reason to reject you. She's already here, he said quietly. Isn't she? Morgana's smile widened. The widow Callista Morwen arrived by wagon this afternoon. 3 children, $17, and absolutely nowhere else to go. The connection strengthened. His dead heart didn't beat, but something in his chest recognized her presence the way the tide recognizes the moon. You arranged this. I arranged nothing. Fate arranged it. I simply didn't interfere. Morgana moved to stand beside him, her gaze following his toward the town below. The question is, the council will never allow me to protect her. Not if Victor has legitimate bloodline claim. No, they won't. She paused. Unless you're willing to fight for her, unless you're willing to risk everything you've built here. Kingdom, power, immortality itself. Lucian closed his eyes. Centuries of numbness. Centuries of existing without living. And now, after all this time, the universe offered him a chance. A widow with 3 children and $17. A woman who would have every reason to fear him. A mate who could save him or destroy him. Where is she now? The schoolhouse. Morgana's tone shifted, became businesslike. The council approved her application for the teaching position. Human students during the day, vampire children after sunset. She's qualified, desperate, perfect for our needs. And Victor arrives tomorrow with the formal petition, 30 days until the council hearing. Vampire law is clear. If the children carry Ashford blood, the family has rights that supersede human maternal custody. 30 days. Lucian opened his eyes. The moon hung full and heavy over Nocturne Hollow, turning the snow-covered streets to silver. Somewhere down there, a woman was putting her children to bed in a room above the general store. Somewhere down there, his true mate was counting the hours until Victor Ashford arrived to take everything from her. I need to see her. Lucian, Morgana's voice carried warning. If you interfere, if you let the council see that you care about this woman, they'll use her against you. They'll use those children. You know what the prophecies say about hybrid bloodlines. You know what the council wants. He knew 3 hybrid children with vampire and human blood. Rare, powerful, exactly what the old rituals required, exactly what certain council members would kill to possess. Then I'll be careful. Careful. Morgana laughed, a sound like breaking glass. You haven't been careful since 1776. That's what got you cursed in the first place. She was right. Careful would have been letting the vampire lord keep his stolen land. Careful would have been looking the other way when injustice wore an immortal face. Careful had never been Lucian Blackwood's strength. 30 days, he said. That's what you gave her. That's what vampire law demands. The council hearing will take place on the next blood moon. Until then, she's free to build her case, free to prove she's fit to raise half-blood children in a world that wants to use them. And if she can't prove it, Morgana's smile returned, then Victor takes the children. And whatever the council decides to do with 3 hybrid bloodlines is no longer her concern. Lucian moved toward the tower stairs. I'm going to see her. Of course you are. Morgana's voice followed him down the winding stone steps. Just remember, Lucian, true mates can save you, or they can damn you. The curse doesn't distinguish between the two. The schoolhouse was dark except for a single lamp burning in the window. Lucian stood in the shadow of the oak tree across the street watching. He could hear her moving inside, could hear the soft murmur of her voice as she spoke to her children. The eldest first, the girl with the old eyes who'd learned too young to be afraid. Isabel, you need to sleep. Tomorrow's our first day. What if they don't like us? The girl's voice carried worry older than 12 years should know. Then we'll show them who we are until they do. Lucian closed his eyes. Her voice, even through wood and glass and the space between them, he felt it. The pull recognizing what his mind refused to accept. This was her. After 3 lifetimes of waiting, this was her. A widow with 3 children and nowhere to run. A woman who'd fled from one vampire and strayed into the territory of another. A human who had no idea that the man watching her from the shadows was the most dangerous thing in Nocturne Hollow. The door to the schoolhouse opened. She stepped out onto the porch, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders against the December cold. For a moment, she simply stood there, looking up at the stars. Lucian should have stayed in shadow. Should have remained hidden. Should have followed every instinct that told him observation was safer than contact. Instead, he stepped into the moonlight. She saw him immediately. Her hand went to the doorframe, steadying herself. Smart, cautious. A woman who'd learned to recognize danger when it wore a human face. Mrs. Morwen. Her chin lifted. You know my name. Small town, news travels. He moved closer slowly, the way one approached something wild and wounded. Lucian Blackwood. I'm on the town council. I know who you are. Her voice didn't waver, but her pulse jumped at her throat. He could hear it, could smell the fear beneath her composure. Everyone in Nocturne Hollow knows who you are. Of course they did. Vampire King wasn't a title one wore quietly. I wanted to welcome you, to ensure you have everything you need. At midnight, I keep unusual hours. A small smile touched her lips despite the fear. So I've heard. They stood in the space between the schoolhouse and the street, between mortal and immortal, between the woman he'd waited centuries to find and the curse that would destroy him if she refused him. Your children, he said carefully. The council approved your teaching position, but there will be questions. About their bloodline, about whether Nocturne Hollow is the right place for half-blood children to grow. The fear sharpened. How did you? I can smell it. Vampire blood mixed with human. It's faint, but it's there. He held her gaze. Victor Ashford will arrive tomorrow. He'll petition the council for custody. He'll argue that you can't protect them, can't provide for them, can't give them what the Ashford bloodline demands. And you're here to tell me he's right. I'm here to tell you that he's not, but proving it won't be easy. Callista Morwen looked at him for a long moment. In the lamplight, he could see her clearly. 30 years old, brown hair pulled back. Eyes that had seen too much and survived it anyway. The kind of beautiful that came from strength rather than softness. His true mate, she didn't know it yet, couldn't feel the connection the way he did. Humans never could not until it was too late. Why do you care? She asked quietly. Because you're mine. Because I've waited for you. Because if you reject me, I'll become the monster everyone already thinks I am. Because I was a justice of the peace before I became what I am now. I've seen too many people lose their children to laws that don't account for love. I won't watch it happen again. Half truth, half lie, the best kind of manipulation. She studied him, weighing his words against whatever instincts kept her alive this long. What do you want in return? Nothing you're not willing to give. Everyone wants something, Mr. Blackwood. Lucian, and you're right, I want to help you win. I want Victor Ashford to leave Nocturne Hollow empty-handed. I want the council to see that a mother's love is worth more than bloodline politics. He paused. What I want in return is the satisfaction of knowing I did the right thing. For once, the silence stretched between them. I don't trust easily, she said finally. I don't expect you to. My children are everything to me. I know. If you're lying, then you'll learn to hate me. Add me to the list of men who've failed you. He stepped back, giving her space. But I'm not lying, Callista. I'm offering you an alliance. My knowledge of vampire law and council politics for your determination to keep your family together. She pulled the shawl tighter. The council hearing is in 30 days. Blood moon, New Year's Eve. And until then you teach, you build relationships in Nocturne Hollow. You show the community that you're not running, you're building, that you're not afraid, you're determined. He turned to go, then paused. And you let me help you. Because Victor Ashford isn't just any vampire. He's connected to the oldest bloodlines on the continent. He'll have resources you can't imagine. And you, I have resources he can't imagine. Lucian walked away before she could ask more questions. Before the pull drew him closer. Before he did something foolish like tell her the truth. That she was his salvation or his damnation. That he'd known her for 5 minutes and would burn down kingdoms to keep her safe. That centuries of numbness had just shattered the moment she stepped onto that porch. Behind him, he heard her go back inside. Heard her children ask if everything was all right. Heard her lie and say yes. Mortals were good at lying to themselves. He should know. He'd been doing it for lifetimes. Victor Ashford arrived the next evening as the sun set, stepping from a private coach with 2 vampire guards at his back. Lucian waited for him in the council chamber, a converted church that had stood empty for decades until the vampires claimed it. Morgana sat at the head of the long table. 4 other council members occupied the remaining seats, all of them older than Lucian, all of them more interested in power than justice. Victor, Morgana's greeting carried the warmth of a blade. Welcome to Nocturne Hollow. Victor was everything Lucian expected. Mid-50s in appearance, though likely closer to 200 in reality. Expensive clothes, calculated manners. The kind of vampire who'd learned that civilization was more effective than savagery when hunting prey. Lady Morgana, council members. Victor's gaze found Lucy. Lord Blackwood, it's been some time. Not long enough, a thin smile. Still bitter about the Boston affair, I thought the centuries would have dulled that particular edge. Lucian said nothing. The Boston affair had been Victor's brother Marcus. A trial. A ruling Lucian had made before he'd become vampire. A grudge Victor had carried across lifetimes. Shall we discuss why I'm here? Victor set a leather case on the table. My brother Marcus died 8 months ago. He left behind a widow, Callista Morwen, and 3 children. Half-blood children with Ashford vampire lineage. We're aware, Morgana said. Mrs. Morwen has taken a teaching position here. The children are enrolled in school. Mrs. Morwen fled Helena rather than contest custody in human court. She took the children across territorial lines without permission. She violated the terms of the preliminary hearing. Victor opened the case, removing documents. Under vampire law, half-blood children with established vampire parentage fall under bloodline jurisdiction. The Ashford family has rights that supersede mortal maternal custody. One of the council members leaned forward. What exactly are you requesting, Victor? A hearing, 30 days. If at the end of that period Mrs. Morwen can demonstrate that she's fit to raise half-blood children in a vampire-adjacent community, I'll withdraw my petition. He paused. If she cannot, the children return to Helena with me. The Ashford family will ensure their proper education in vampire society. And if she refuses to participate, then I petition for immediate custody transfer. Either way, this matter concludes on the blood moon. Lucian felt the trap closing. Participate and lose. Refuse and lose faster. Victor had designed this carefully, exactly the way Marcus had designed his marriage to Callista. The Ashfords didn't do anything without planning. Lord Blackwood, Morgana's voice pulled him back. You've been quiet. Do you have thoughts on this petition? Every council member looked at him. Waiting, watching, testing. I think, Lucian said carefully, that we should hear from Mrs. Morwen before we make any decisions about her children's future. She's human, one council member said dismissively. What could she possibly say that matters? She's the mother. That matters. Half-blood children need vampire guidance. Half-blood children need their mother. The room went cold. Morgana's eyes narrowed. She knew what he was doing, knew he was walking the edge of interference, knew the connection was already pulling him toward choices that would cost him everything. Perhaps, Morgana said smoothly, Lord Blackwood should serve as Mrs. Morwen's advisor during this process. He has extensive experience with both human and vampire law. It would ensure a fair hearing. Victor's smile sharpened. How generous. I accept the council's wisdom. Because it wasn't generous at all. It was a leash. It was Morgana forcing Lucian to choose between his duty to the council and his pull toward Callista. It was centuries of curse coming to a point. Mrs. Morwen will be informed, Morgana concluded. 30 days. Blood moon. This council will hear both petitions and render judgment. She looked at Lucian. Lord Blackwood, you'll meet with her tomorrow to explain the process. The council adjourned. Victor left with his guards. The other members dispersed. Morgana remained. You're going to fight for her, she said, not a question. I'm going to give her a fair chance. Same thing. Morgana stood moving to the window that overlooked Nocturne Hollow. Do you feel it, the connection? No point lying, yes. And does she not yet? She will, once it strengthens, once the blood moon approaches. Morgana turned. What happens then, Lucian? When she realizes that the vampire king helping her is actually her true mate, when she understands that accepting you means accepting immortality, darkness, everything she's spent her life running from, she'll choose her children. Will she? Or will she choose freedom? Morgana's expression softened, almost pitying. You've waited so long. And the universe brings you a woman who's already lost everything to a vampire, a woman who has every reason to hate what you are. I know. If she rejects you, I'll become beast, I know that too. Then why risk it? Why not let Victor take the children? Why not stay numb for another lifetime? At least then you'd still be yourself. Lucian looked out at the town. Somewhere down there, Callista Morwen was putting her children to bed. Somewhere down there, his true mate was planning how to fight a battle she didn't know she'd already lost. Because lifetimes of numbness isn't living. It's just not dying. And if she destroys you, then at least I'll have felt something real before the end. Morgana left without another word. Lucian stood in the empty council chamber feeling the pull toward the schoolhouse, toward a woman who didn't trust him, toward children who needed protection from the very world Lucian ruled, toward the only chance he'd ever have at breaking a curse that had defined centuries of his existence. 30 days, blood moon rising, and a choice that would save him or damn him. Lucian Blackwood Vampire King walked out into the December night and began to plan his salvation. Or his destruction. The universe he'd learned didn't distinguish between the two. The connection was getting stronger. Lucian felt it every time Callista walked into a room, every time she laughed with her children, every time she stood at the schoolhouse blackboard, chalk in hand, teaching human children their numbers, while having no idea that the Vampire King watched from the shadows outside. 11 days since Victor's arrival. 11 days of teaching Callista vampire law in the evenings after her students left. 11 days of sitting across a desk from his true mate and pretending he was only her advisor. 11 days of lying to himself. You're not listening. Callista's voice pulled him back. They were in the schoolhouse, late evening, the oil lamp casting long shadows across the wooden floor. She'd been reading through council precedents cases where half-blood children had been granted to vampire families despite maternal objections. She was right. He hadn't been listening. He'd been watching the way lamplight caught in her hair, the way her finger traced the pages she read, the way her pulse beat at her throat, steady and mortal and absolutely forbidden to him. I'm listening, he lied. Then what did I just say? That the Henderson case from 1847 set a precedent for bloodline supremacy in custody disputes. She looked up, surprise flickering across her face. You were listening. I'm always listening. More truth than she knew. Vampire hearing meant he caught every breath, every heartbeat, every small sound she made. It was torture. Beautiful, exquisite torture. Callista set down the book, rubbing her eyes. This is hopeless. Every case you've shown me ends the same way. The vampire family wins. The human mother loses. Every case but one. Which one? Lucian stood, moving to the bookshelf. He pulled down a leather-bound volume from 1779. The Whitmore case. Human mother, 3 half-blood children, vampire father deceased. The father's family petitioned for custody. The council ruled in the mother's favor. Why? What made her case different? He turned the book to show her. The case notes, yellowed with age, outlined the precedent that had saved Margaret Whitmore's children. Callista read quickly, her brow furrowing. It says here the vampire family withdrew their petition, that they publicly acknowledged the mother was fit, that she stopped, looked up at him. They changed their minds. The vampire patriarch did. He spent a month in the human town where the mother had settled. He watched her raise those children, and he realized that blood wasn't the only thing that mattered. Who was the patriarch? Lucian met her eyes. I was. The silence stretched between them. Outside, snow began to fall, soft and quiet, covering Nocturne Hollow in white. That was you, Callista said finally, in 1779. Before I was king, before the curse, when I still believed justice mattered more than politics. What happened to the children? They grew up, lived full lives. 2 became human by choice when they reached maturity. 1 embraced her vampire nature and joined a clan in New Orleans. He paused. Their mother died at 73, surrounded by grandchildren. Margaret Whitmore lived free. Callista stood, moving closer. Close enough that he could smell the lavender soap she used. Close enough that the pull between them tightened until it hurt. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because it's the exception, not the rule. Because Margaret Whitmore had something you don't. What? Time. I had 6 months to change the patriarch's mind. You have 19 days. She absorbed this, her face unreadable. Then we'll make 19 days enough. The determination in her voice made something crack in Lucian's chest, the place where his heart used to beat, the place the curse had frozen lifetimes ago. Callista, don't, she held up a hand. Don't tell me it's hopeless. Don't tell me Victor has already won. Don't tell me I should prepare to lose my children because some council of vampires values bloodline over love. I wasn't going to say any of that. Then what were you going to say? That you're mine, that I've waited for you, that every moment I spend teaching you vampire law is a moment I want to spend learning everything about you instead. That you should go home, get some sleep. Your children need you rested. Disappointment flashed across her face, quickly hidden, but he saw it. Vampire sight missed nothing. She gathered her books. Tomorrow night, then. Tomorrow night. She paused at the door. Lucian, yes, thank you for the Whitmore case, for giving me hope. She left before he could tell her that hope was dangerous, that hoping meant caring, that caring meant pain when the inevitable came. He stood in the empty schoolhouse, feeling the pull toward the direction she'd gone, toward the room above the general store where she'd tuck her children into bed, toward the woman who had 19 days to prove the impossible, toward his salvation, or his destruction. Lucian didn't sleep. Vampires didn't need to. Instead, he spent the night doing what he did best, investigating. His network of informants stretched across the continent, vampires loyal to him rather than the council, humans who traded information for protection, hybrid creatures who existed in the spaces between mortal and immortal. By dawn, he had what he needed. Victor Ashford wasn't just petitioning for custody, he was gathering something. Resources. Allies. Old vampires who hadn't left their territories in centuries, all converging on Crimson Vale for the Blood Moon. Lucian stood in his private study, documents spread across the desk, letters written in cipher, reports from spies in Victor's household, and one piece of information that made everything else make terrible sense. A ritual, ancient, forbidden, requiring 3 specific elements: hybrid children with hunter bloodline, vampire king's blood, true mate's willing sacrifice. The paper slipped from Lucian's fingers. No. He moved to the hidden library, the one only he could access, pulled down volumes so old they predated the printing press, found the ritual Morgana had shown him once lifetimes ago when she'd first cursed him, the resurrection of Dracula the progenitor. You weren't supposed to find that quite so quickly. Morgana stood in the doorway. She'd appeared without sound, without warning, the way ancient vampires did. Lucian didn't turn around. How long have you known? Known what exactly? That Victor wants the children for the ritual, that he's been planning this since before Marcus died. That everything, Callista fleeing to Nocturne Hollow, the council hearing the 30-day deadline, that all of it was designed to gather the pieces you need. We need Lucian. Don't forget you're part of the council. He turned then. I'm the vampire king, which makes you essential to the ritual. Morgana moved into the room, her movements liquid grace. Did you read the whole thing? Did you see what resurrecting the progenitor requires? The willing sacrifice of a true mate, her blood mixed with the king's, 3 hybrid children as vessels. His voice came out flat, dead. You cursed me and told me I'd find my true mate. You didn't mention it was so you could use her to resurrect Dracula. I didn't know she'd be a Van Helsing. The world stopped. What did you say? Morgana smiled. Callista Morwen, born Callista Van Helsing, descendant of the most famous vampire hunter in history. Her bloodline has been hunting us for 6 generations. She pulled a leather journal from her coat. Marcus Ashford discovered this when he researched his future bride. Pure human blood from a hunter line. Rare. Powerful. Exactly what the ritual needs. Lucian felt something cold settle in his chest. Colder than the curse. Colder than lifetimes of numbness. The children aren't just hybrids. They're hunter-vampire hybrids. Weapons, Lucian. Living weapons. Their blood can kill ancient vampires. Or it can resurrect them, depending on how it's used. Callista doesn't know. Of course not. Marcus married her, got her pregnant 3 times, and died before he had to tell her the truth. Very convenient, that writing accident. Morgana's smile sharpened. Or it would have been if it had actually been an accident. The cold spread. Victor killed his own brother. Victor served the greater good. Marcus was weak. He fell in love with his hunter bride, started having doubts about the ritual, started thinking maybe 3 innocent children didn't deserve to be sacrificed for vampire supremacy. Morgana moved closer. Victor eliminated the problem. Efficiently, as he always does. Lucian's hands clenched. If he'd still been human, they would have been shaking. And you let him. I encouraged him. The ritual has been planned for 2 centuries. We've been waiting for the right bloodlines to converge. Hunter and vampire, king and mate, everything aligning under a blood moon. She touched his face, gentle as poison. You were always meant for this, Lucian. Your curse, your kingdom, your true mate, all of it designed to bring us to this moment. I won't let you take them. You won't have a choice. When the blood moon rises, the ritual begins. The council will have the children. They'll have you. And Callista, Morgana's eyes gleamed. Callista will choose her children's lives, or yours. One or the other must be sacrificed. That's not a choice. Of course it is. It's the only choice that matters. A mother's love for her children, or a woman's love for her mate. Morgana stepped back. I'm curious which she'll pick. I've waited lifetimes to find out. She disappeared. One moment present, the next gone, leaving only the scent of old blood and older magic. Lucian stood in his library surrounded by books that held the sum of vampire knowledge and felt more powerless than he'd felt since the night Morgana had turned him. Callista was a Van Helsing. Her children were weapons. The ritual would kill them all, or damn them all, depending on which choice Callista made. And he had 19 days to find a way to save her that didn't require her to love him back. He told her everything the next night. Not in the schoolhouse, not in Nocturne Hollow where council spies might overhear. He took her to the one place in his territory that Morgana couldn't reach. The ruins of his old homestead. The place he'd lived as a human before the curse. Before the kingdom. Before lifetimes of numbness taught him that feeling meant suffering. Snow fell around them as Lucian led Callista through the skeletal remains of what had once been a house, a life, a future he'd lost the night he'd ruled against a vampire lord. Where are we? She asked, pulling her coat tighter. Somewhere safe, somewhere we can talk without being overheard. About what? He turned to face her. The moonlight caught in her hair turned her eyes silver. His true mate, the woman the universe had waited to bring him. The woman whose bloodline had spent 6 generations hunting his kind. About who you really are. About what your children really are. About what Victor actually wants. He paused. About why I've been lying to you since the moment we met. Fear flickered across her face. Lucian, your maiden name was Van Helsing. She went still. How did you know that? Because Morgana told me. Because Victor knows. Because your husband Marcus knew when he married you. Lucian moved closer slowly, giving her space to run if she chose. You're descended from the most famous vampire hunter in history. Your blood is pure human. No vampire influence. No supernatural taint. Just 6 generations of men and women who dedicated their lives to killing my kind. I'm not a hunter. I've never hurt. I know. But your bloodline is hunter blood. And when Marcus Ashford married you, when he fathered 3 children with you, he created something that hasn't existed in 200 years. Lucian held her gaze. Hybrid children with vampire and hunter blood. Living weapons that can kill ancient vampires. Or resurrect them. Callista's breath came faster. My children aren't weapons. To Victor they are. To the Council they are. To Morgana and every vampire who wants to resurrect Dracula the progenitor. They're the missing pieces of a ritual that's been planned for 2 centuries. That's insane. That's vampire politics. He pulled the ritual documents from his coat, handed them to her. Read it, all of it, and understand what Victor really wants. She read by moonlight, her hands shaking. Lucian watched her face change as comprehension dawned. Horror, disbelief, rage. They want to kill my children. They want to use your children. 3 hybrid vessels. Vampire King's blood. True mate's willing sacrifice. All performed under a blood moon. He paused. The ritual resurrects Dracula, and whoever controls Dracula controls the vampire world. Callista looked up, her eyes blazing. And you knew this. You knew what they wanted, and you still helped me. Still taught me vampire law. Still, she stopped. Her voice dropped. True mate's willing sacrifice. The ritual requires a true mate. Yes. Whose true mate Lucian could have lied, could have deflected, could have given himself a few more days before this moment destroyed everything. Instead, he told the truth. Mine. The silence was absolute. Even the falling snow seemed to pause. I'm your true mate, Callista said. Not a question. Yes. That's why you've been helping me. That's why you're teaching me vampire law. That's why her voice cracked. You need me for the ritual. No. The word came out harsh, final. I need you to survive the ritual. I need you to live. I need Victor and Morgana and the entire council to fail in their plan, because if they succeed, you and your children die. And you what? He looked at her, his true mate, the woman who could save him or destroy him, the woman who had every reason to hate what he was. If you die, the curse wins. I become beast, mindless, lost, everything I've fought against for so long. Callista stepped back. So you are using me, just like Marcus did, just like Victor wants to. You're all using me. I'm trying to save you. By lying to me, by hiding what I am, by pretending to be my advisor when you're actually... She stopped, her hand going to her chest. I feel it. The pull. I thought I was just attracted to you. But it's more than that, isn't it? It's supernatural, magical, something I can't control. The connection strengthens as the blood moon approaches. By the time we reach Crimson Vale, you'll feel it completely. You'll know I'm your true mate the way I've known since the moment you arrived. And if I reject you, if I choose to stay human, if I refuse this, Lucian felt the curse stir, centuries of magic pressing against his control. Then I become the monster everyone thinks I am, and you lose the only ally powerful enough to stand against the council. She looked at him for a long moment. Snow fell between them, white and pure and completely indifferent to vampire politics, or true mates, or curses that spanned lifetimes. I need to think, she said finally. Callista, don't, just give me tonight. Let me process this. Let me figure out if I can trust anything you've told me. She turned to go, then stopped. One question. Anything. If you had to choose between breaking your curse and saving my children, which would you pick? The answer came without hesitation. Your children. Every time. Something shifted in her expression. Not trust, not yet, but something softer than the rage. Prove it, she said. Prove you're not like Marcus. Prove you're not using me. How might I teach my daughter to survive? Isabel is manifesting vampire abilities. She's 12 years old and her eyes glow red when she's angry, and she's terrified of what she's becoming. Callista's voice broke. Teach her to control it. Show her she's not a monster. Do that, and maybe I'll believe you actually care about more than breaking your curse. She left. Lucian stood in the ruins of his old life, feeling the pull toward her retreating figure, feeling the curse press harder, reminding him what happened to vampire kings who fell in love with women who had every reason to reject them. 18 days until the blood moon. 18 days to prove he was more than the curse that defined him. 18 days to save his true mate without her having to love him back. He looked up at the moon, full, heavy, indifferent, and began to plan. Isabel Morwen was 12 years old and had her mother's eyes. She also had her father's fangs, which she discovered on day 16 when Lucian made her angry on purpose. They were in the forest north of Nocturne Hollow, far from prying eyes. Lucian had been training her for 3 nights now. Control, discipline, the difference between being a vampire and being ruled by vampiric instinct. Again, he said. Uh, Isabel shook her head. Her hands trembled. I can't. What if I hurt someone? You won't. How do you know? Because I'm teaching you not to. Lucian moved closer. Your vampire nature isn't separate from you, Isabel. It's part of you, like being smart, like being protective of your siblings. It's just another aspect of who you are. It's a monster aspect. Is it just different? He crouched down to her level. Tell me what you feel when your vampire nature surfaces. Anger, hunger, like I want to. Oh, she stopped. Want to what? Hurt people, people who threaten my family. And have you hurt anyone? No, but I want to sometimes. When Peter Aldridge said those things about my mother, when his father told people we should leave Nocturne Hollow, I wanted to. Her eyes flashed red, quickly suppressed. I'm a monster. No. Lucian's voice came out harder than intended. You're a 12-year-old girl with protective instincts and vampire abilities. That doesn't make you a monster. It makes you dangerous. There's a difference. Isabel looked up at him. What's the difference? Monsters can't control themselves. Dangerous people choose when and how to use their power. You're learning to choose. He stood. Show me again. Control the transformation. Eyes only, no fangs, no claws, just eyes. She tried, failed, tried again. On the fifth attempt, her eyes shifted to red and held. No fangs, no loss of control, just the visual marker of vampire nature worn like a choice instead of a curse. Good, Lucian said. Now hold it for 60 seconds. She did. When the minute passed, she let the red fade back to brown. I did it. You did. A smile broke across her face, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her. Does this mean I'm not a monster? This means you're learning you never were. They walked back toward Nocturne Hollow together. Isabel chattered about school, about her siblings, about the way Thomas talked to Phantom the horse, and Mira insisted on reading every book in the schoolhouse library. Normal 12-year-old concerns. Except for the part where she could snap a grown man's arm if she lost control. Can I ask you something? Isabel said as they reached the edge of town. Always. Why are you helping us? My mother, me, my family. Victor's offering you something. Isn't he power or alliance or something vampires care about? So why choose us instead? Smart girl. Too smart. Because your mother is important to me. Important how? Lucian stopped walking, looked down at this child who'd learned to see through lies because her father had taught her that people couldn't be trusted. She's my true mate. Isabel absorbed this. Does she know? Yes. Does she feel it too? Not yet, but she will, soon. And when she does, what happens? She chooses to accept this or reject it. To become vampire or stay human. He stopped. Couldn't say the rest. Isabel said it for him. To love you or let you become a monster. Yes, they walked in silence for a moment. Then Isabel said quietly, my mother loved my father once, before he showed her who he really was, before she learned that he'd married her for her bloodline, before he spent 7 years controlling her and calling it care. I know. She doesn't trust easily anymore. I know that too. But she's looking at you different than she looked at him, like she wants to trust you, like she's trying to figure out if you're real or if you're just another vampire using her. Lucian's chest tightened. What do you think? Isabel looked up at him with her mother's eyes. I think you're scared. I think you've been alone for a really long time. I think you'd burn down the world to protect my family because protecting us means protecting her. She paused. I think you love my mother. And I think you're terrified she'll never love you back. 12 years old and she saw everything. You're very perceptive. I'm my mother's daughter. Isabel smiled. For what it's worth, I hope she chooses you. You're teaching me I'm not a monster. Maybe she can teach you the same thing. She ran ahead back toward the schoolhouse where Callista was finishing evening lessons. Lucian stood at the forest edge watching her go, feeling the pull toward the building where his true mate taught children their letters. 14 days until the blood moon. 14 days until Callista had to choose. 14 days until Lucian proved Isabel wrong. Because he was a monster. The curse had made sure of that. The only question was whether Callista would see past the monster to the man who'd waited to find her. Victor made his move on day 18. Not the move Lucian expected. It was Lucian who found Victor, not the other way around. Found him in the ruins outside Nocturne Hollow where Lucian had taken Callista nights before. Beaten, bloodied. left for dead. Lucian approached slowly, every sense alert for ambush. But there was no trap, just Victor Ashford, ancient vampire bleeding silver blood onto frozen ground. Lucian, Victor's voice came out as a rasp. Knew you'd come here eventually. What happened? Morgana. Victor tried to sit up, failed. I discovered the truth about the ritual, about what happens to the children after. Lucian crouched beside him. Tell me. They're not vessels. They're sacrifices. Victor coughed, silver blood on his lips. The ritual doesn't use their power. It consumes them, drains them, kills them. I didn't know. Marcus didn't know. When he found out when he tried to protect Callista and the children, Morgana killed him, made it look like an accident, then sent me to collect the pieces she needed. The widow, the children, you. Bah, Victor grabbed Lucian's coat with shaking hands. I thought it was about custody, about Ashford bloodline. I didn't know she planned to murder them. Lucian studied Victor's face, searching for the lie, finding only desperation. Why tell me this? Because Marcus was my brother. Because those children are his legacy. Because I may be a bastard, but I'm not a child killer. Victor released him. And because you're her true mate, you'll protect them when I can't. You're helping us. I'm helping Marcus. Finally. Victor closed his eyes. There's more. Morgana moved the timeline. She's not waiting for the blood moon hearing. She's taking the children in 8 days, hitting them before the council can interfere. 8 days. Lucian felt the world narrow. How bullshit. She'll stage an attack, make it look like I kidnapped them, use the chaos to move them to Crimson Vale. Victor opened his eyes. One of the children, the youngest, Thomas. He'll be taken first, to force Callista to come. To force you to choose between saving the boy or protecting the others. Went by 2 days, maybe 3. Morgana's guards are already in position. Lucian pulled Victor to his feet. Can you fight? Against Morgana, no, against her guards? Victor smiled, blood-stained and bitter. Yes. Then help me stop this. Help me save those children. And maybe Marcus's death won't have been for nothing. Victor nodded once. Where do we start? With the truth, with telling Callista everything, with building an army from people who choose love over power. Lucian looked toward Nocturne Hollow, and with teaching a mother how to be a warrior. They walked back to town together. Ancient vampire and vampire king. Enemies for lifetimes, allies for 8 days. Sometimes redemption looked like betrayal. Sometimes saving children meant losing kingdoms. Lucian was learning that the hard way. He told Callista about Victor's warning that same night. Gathered her and the children in the schoolhouse after dark. Isabel, Mira, Thomas. 3 hybrid children who had no idea they'd been created as weapons, who had no idea their lives had been measured and found expendable by vampires who valued power over humanity. Morgana's not waiting for the blood moon, Lucian said without preamble. She's moving in 8 days, maybe less. She'll stage Thomas's kidnapping to force our hand. Callista went white. You're certain? Victor confirmed it. He was beaten by Morgana when he tried to back out. The ritual doesn't use the children. It kills them. Silence. Then Isabel stood. We're going. No, Callista said automatically. Mom, they're going to take Thomas anyway. They're going to use him to make you surrender. We can't just... I know what they're going to do. That's why you're not going. Callista's hands shook as she spoke. I'll trade myself. They want Van Helsing blood for the ritual. They can have mine. That's not how it works, Lucian said quietly. Then tell me how it works. Tell me how to save my son. He looked at her, his true mate, the woman who would sacrifice herself without hesitation to save her children, the woman who had 8 days to decide if she could love a monster. We don't trade, we don't surrender. We fight. Lucian moved closer. All of us, together. We go to Crimson Vale before Morgana expects us. We break the ritual before it begins. We end this permanently. Against the entire Vampire Council. I'm the Vampire King, and you're Van Helsing. Between us, we have more power than they expect. Callista stared at him. The pull between them stronger now, visible to her in a way it hadn't been before. He could see her feeling it, see her fighting it, see her deciding whether to trust him or run. If we do this, she said slowly, if we go to Crimson Vale and fight the council and challenge Morgana for my children, what happens to your curse, to your kingdom, to everything you are? I don't know. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. I don't know if fighting the council breaks the curse or triggers it. I don't know if saving you and your children costs me my kingdom or saves it. I don't know anything except that 8 days from now we make our stand. Everything else is secondary. She looked at Isabel, at Mira, at Thomas, who sat quietly beside his sisters. Then she looked back at Lucy. All right, she said, we fight, we go to Crimson Vale, we get ahead of Morgana's plan, and then we end this ritual and everyone behind it. She held out her hand. Partners, you bring the vampire knowledge and power. I bring the mother's rage. We bring our children home. Lucian took her hand. The moment their skin touched, something flared between them. Bright, undeniable, absolutely terrifying in its intensity. Callista gasped. I feel it now. I really feel it. It's real, permanent, growing stronger every day until you have to choose. To choose what? He could have lied, could have softened it, could have given her hope that didn't exist. To accept me or reject me. To become vampire or stay human. To love me or let me become what I've spent lifetimes avoiding. He squeezed her hand gently. That's the curse, Callista. Your love breaks it. Your rejection completes it. Either way, the choice is yours. She didn't let go of his hand. That meant something. He hoped. 8 days, she said. 8 days. We'll need allies, weapons, a plan. I have all of that. And if the plan fails, if Morgana's stronger than we think, if the ritual happens anyway. Lucian pulled her closer, close enough that he could smell lavender soap and determination, close enough that the pull sang between them. Then I'll make sure you and your children survive it, even if it costs me everything. Callista looked up at him. Her eyes searched his face for the lie, for the manipulation, for the monster. She didn't find it. Why do I believe you, she whispered. Because it's true. Because for the first time in my existence, I'm not lying. He released her hand, stepped back. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start preparing, training, gathering allies, building what we need to storm Crimson Vale and end this. She nodded, gathered her daughters, moved toward the door with Thomas in her arm, then stopped. Lucian, Tom? Yes. Thank you for being honest, for not pretending this is anything other than what it is. She paused, for making me want to trust you, despite every reason not to. She left before he could respond. Lucian stood in the empty schoolhouse, feeling the pull toward her retreating figure, feeling the curse press harder, counting down the days until everything came to light. 8 days. 8 days to build an army. 8 days to plan an impossible assault. 8 days to prove to Callista Morwen that loving a vampire king wasn't the same as loving the vampire who'd manipulated her into 7 years of misery. 8 days to save his true mate, or lose everything trying. The moon hung heavy over Nocturne Hollow, counting down like a cosmic clock. Lucian Blackwood, Vampire King, walked out into the December night and began to prepare for war. His kingdom versus the council. His power versus ancient ritual. His heart versus lifetimes of numbness. And in 8 days, the universe would decide which one won. The blood moon rose red over Crimson Vale. Lucian stood at the gates of the city he'd sworn never to enter again. The place where Morgana had turned him lifetimes ago. The place where the Vampire Council gathered under ancient stone and older magic. The place where his true mate's son was being held for a ritual that would either resurrect Dracula or destroy everyone Lucian had learned to care about. Beside him, Callista checked the silver blade at her hip. Van Helsing's steel passed down through 6 generations of vampire hunters. She'd found it in her mother's belongings after Lucian explained her bloodline. Had spent the past 8 days learning to wield it like her ancestors. You don't have to come inside, he said quietly. She looked at him. 8 days of training together. 8 days of the pull growing stronger. 8 days of her learning to trust him while the curse counted down to its final hour. He's my son. I know, but if something happens to me in there, if the curse triggers or the council overpowers me, I need to know you'll get the children out. All 3 of them. Nothing's going to happen to you. Callista. No. She touched his face the first time she'd initiated contact since learning about their connection. We made a deal. Partners. You bring the vampire power. I bring the mother's rage. We bring our children home together. The pull flared at her touch. Bright, undeniable, so close to completion it hurt. You feel it, he said, not a question. I felt it for days, getting stronger every time I look at you. Every time you train with Isabel. Every time you talk about saving my family like it's the only thing that matters. Her hand dropped. I know what happens at midnight, when the blood moon reaches its peak. when this forces me to choose. You don't have to choose me. Saving Thomas doesn't require don't. Her voice came out fierce. Don't pretend you're not terrified I'll reject you. Don't pretend the curse won't turn you into something mindless if I stay human. Don't lie to me now, not when we're this close. Lucian looked at her, his true mate. The woman he'd waited for. The woman who had every reason to hate what he was and choose mortality over the monster offering her immortality. I am terrified, he admitted, not of the curse, not of becoming beast, of losing you before I've even had the chance to love you properly. Then don't lose me. She picked up her blade. Let's go get our son. Behind them their small army gathered, not the council's forces, not Morgana's ancient vampires, just the people who'd chosen to stand with them. Isabel, 12 years old with her father's vampire blood and her mother's Van Helsing steel. She'd manifested full control in the past week, could shift ways, Fang's strength at will. A weapon, a protector, a child learning she was both. Mira, 8 years old and carrying silver-tipped arrows blessed by Father Cornelius. She couldn't fight like her sister, but she could shoot, and she'd spent 8 days practicing until every arrow found its mark. Octavia Frost, 16, and finally free from a father who'd hated her hybrid nature. She joined their cause, bringing information about the ritual and the council chamber's layout. Father Cornelius himself, the hybrid priest who'd performed counter-rituals before. He carried holy water mixed with Lucian's blood, a combination that could disrupt ancient magic if used correctly. And standing at the back, unexpected but undeniable Victor Ashford, healed now, ready to betray the council that had used him as thoroughly as they'd used everyone else. Ready, Lucian asked the assembled group. Nods, determined faces, children and hybrids, and a reformed vampire who'd lost his brother to Morgana's ambition. Not an army, a family. Then let's end this. They walked through Crimson Vale's gates as the blood moon climbed higher. The council chamber was exactly as Lucian remembered. Stone walls carved with ancient runes, torches that burned without consuming their fuel. The circular platform at the center, where judgments were passed and rituals performed, and there strapped to an altar made of obsidian and silver 5-year-old Thomas Morwen. Callista made a sound. Not quite a scream, not quite a sob, the sound of a mother seeing her child in danger and realizing she'd walk through hell itself to save him. Lucian caught her arm. Wait, it's a trap. I don't care. I do. Look at the runes. Look at the way they're positioned around the altar. This isn't just a holding cell. It's the ritual circle. One wrong step and Morgana's voice cut through the chamber. And the ritual completes early. Very observant, Lucian. Your time as Vampire King taught you something after all. She stepped from the shadows. Not alone. 20 council vampires, 40 guards, ancient creatures who'd survived by being faster, stronger, more ruthless than anything that challenged them. You brought friends. Morgana continued, her gaze sliding over their small group. How sweet. The Vampire King, his true mate, 2 hybrid children, a reformed vampire, and a priest, against the full council. Did you really think this would work? I think, Lucian said carefully, that you've underestimated how far I'll go to protect what's mine. They're not yours. No, but she is. He gestured to Callista. And they're hers. That makes them mine. Morgana's smile sharpened. How romantic. Tell me, Callista, has he mentioned what happens at midnight when the blood moon peaks and this forces you to choose, accept him and become vampire, reject him and watch him become beast? Either way, you lose your humanity. She moved closer to the altar where Thomas lay unconscious. Or you could choose option 3. Give yourself to the ritual. Willing sacrifice. Your Van Helsing blood mixed with Lucian's. Your children as vessels. Dracula rises, and Thomas lives. Don't listen to her, Lucian said. Why not? It's the truth. The ritual needs willing sacrifice. Your blood freely given to save your children. That's option 3, Callista. That's the choice you haven't been told about. Callista looked at Lucian. Is it true? He could have lied, should have protected her from this final manipulation. Yes, willing sacrifice is part of the ritual. Your blood, freely given mixed with mine, it would power the resurrection. But it would also kill you. Morgana's not offering you a way to save Thomas. She's offering you a way to die. But Thomas would live. For what? To be raised by the council, to be trained as a weapon, to spend his life serving the vampires who murdered his mother. Lucian moved between Callista and Morgana. No, we fight. We break the ritual. We take Thomas and leave. Together. Against 20 council members. I'm the Vampire King. I didn't earn that title by losing fights. Morgana laughed. You earned it by making deals, by compromising, by choosing politics over principles for lifetimes. What makes you think you can change now? Her. Lucian gestured to Callista. She makes me think I can change. She makes me want to be better than the curse, better than the kingdom, better than lifetimes of numbness pretending to be wisdom. The chamber went quiet. Then Morgana raised her hand. Kill them, all except Callista and the children. We'll proceed with the ritual as planned. The council vampires attacked. Lucian met them head-on. Centuries of experience, centuries of power accumulated through deals and domination, and the kind of political maneuvering that made weaker vampires submit. He was faster than them, stronger, older in ways that mattered. He tore through the first wave like they were paper. Behind him, Isabel fought with controlled fury. Vampire strength directed by 12-year-old protective instinct. She kept the guards away from Mira, who fired silver arrows with steady precision. Octavia and Father Cornelius worked together. Holy water and counter spells disrupting the ritual runes carved into the floor. And Victor Ashford fought like a man seeking redemption. Every vampire he struck down was an apology to the brother he'd failed to save. But there were too many. Lucian felt it as the battle turned. Felt council vampires adapting to his speed. Felt ancient magic rising from the ritual circle as Morgana began the incantation. Felt the pull toward Callista, even as he fought to protect her. Lucian, her voice cut through the chaos. He turned, saw Morgana standing over Thomas with a silver blade, saw the ritual circle beginning to glow, saw Callista making a choice. No, he said. Already moving, already too late. Callista stepped into the ritual circle. I offer myself willingly, my blood for my son's life. Take it and let him go. Callista, don't! Morgana's blade flashed. Not toward Thomas, toward Callista's throat. Lucian reached them in a heartbeat, faster than thought, faster than the blade, faster than lifetimes of instinct, screaming at him to protect his true mate. He stepped between them. The silver blade meant for Callista's throat buried itself in his chest instead. Silver, the one substance that could kill an ancient vampire. The one weakness Morgana had always known how to exploit. Lucian looked down at the blade protruding from his heart, felt his strength bleeding away, felt the curse recognizing that he was dying, felt the pull snap tight one final time. No! Callista caught his as he fell. No, 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 Lucian, stay with me. Don't you dare. Had to, he managed. Blood on his lips, silver burning through his chest. Couldn't let her, couldn't let you. You idiot. You're the Vampire King. You're supposed to be immortal. You're supposed to, her voice broke. You're supposed to stay. Can't, Silver, heart. Each word cost him. But you're safe, Thomas is safe. That's enough. It's not enough, I need you. The children need you, She pressed her forehead to his. I love you. Do you hear me? I love you. I choose you. I accept this. I'll become vampire. I'll do whatever it takes. Just don't leave me. The pull flared, bright, complete, acknowledged. Lucian felt the curse shatter, lifetimes of magic breaking like glass, lifetimes of numbness flooding with feelings so intense it should have killed him. Would have killed him if the silver wasn't already doing it. You love me, he whispered. Yes. Even knowing what I am, especially knowing what you are, you're not a monster. You're the man who waited for me, the man who taught my daughter she wasn't broken. The man who sacrificed everything to protect my family. She kissed him, gentle, desperate. You're mine, and I'm not letting you go. Callista. No, listen to me, love breaks curses. That's what Morgana said. Love sets you free. So I'm setting you free. I love you. I choose you, and you're going to live. She bit her own wrist. Van Helsing blood, pure and powerful, pressed it to his lips. Drink my blood, freely given. Not for the ritual, for you, to heal you, to save you, to prove I choose this, choose us. Lucian tasted her blood, hunter blood mixed with acceptance, mixed with love freely offered instead of sacrificed under duress. Something shifted. The silver stopped burning. The wound began to close. The curse that had shattered reformed into something new. Not a curse anymore, a bond, pure, willing, reciprocated. Lucian's eyes opened. Not red, not the dead black of ancient vampires, something between. Gold, like sunlight filtered through amber. What? Father Cornelius's voice rang through the chamber. Willing bond, not sacrifice, choice. The ritual required sacrifice. She gave love instead. The magic doesn't know what to do with it. Morgana screamed. No! The ritual requires blood sacrifice. Unwilling or coerced. It doesn't work with love freely given. Callista stood helping Lucian to his feet. Then maybe your ritual was doomed from the start. The ritual circle exploded. Magic backfired. Runes shattered. The obsidian altar cracked down the center. Thomas Morwen sat up, rubbing his eyes. Mom, baby. Callista ran to him, scooped him up. I've got you. You're safe. We're all safe, Lucia faced Morgana. The wound in his chest was healed. The curse was broken. And standing at his back were Callista and her children and every person who'd chosen to fight for love instead of power. It's over, he said. Morgana's face twisted. The council serves me. I'm the vampire king, and I'm done serving rituals that require innocent blood. He looked at the assembled vampires, the ones still standing, the ones who'd survived the battle and the magical backlash. New law, no more forced turnings, no more bloodline supremacy, no more using children as weapons. Vampire and human and hybrid live as equals in my territory. Anyone who disagrees can challenge me now. Silence. Then one by one the council vampires knelt, not out of fear, out of respect, out of recognition that the vampire king who'd just taken a silver blade for his true mate was not the same king they'd manipulated for lifetimes. Morgana stood alone. You can't change vampire law. Watch me. Lucian moved toward her, each step deliberate, each step carrying the weight of patience finally rewarded. You cursed me because I ruled against vampire supremacy, because I believed justice mattered more than power. You spent lifetimes trying to break me, to turn me into something I wasn't, to make me forget why I fought in the first place. He stopped in front of her. Thank you. What? Thank you for cursing me. Thank you for making me wait. Because if you hadn't, I would never have met her, would never have learned that love is worth more than immortality, would never have understood that being human isn't about mortality. It's about choosing to care even when caring costs everything. Morgana's expression crumbled, lifetimes of certainty shattering. You were supposed to become beast. You were supposed to lose everything. You were supposed to prove that love makes vampires weak. I did become beast. The moment Callista stepped into that ritual circle, I became something more dangerous than any curse. He smiled. I became a vampire willing to die for love. There's nothing more terrifying than that. Father Cornelius stepped forward, holy water in hand. Morgana Vale, by the authority vested in me by the council and the vampire king, I banish you from Crimson Vale, from Nocturne Hollow, from every territory under Lucian Blackwood's protection. You will wander as you made him wander, alone, until you learn the lesson you tried to teach him. The holy water touched Morgana's skin. She screamed. I'd withered, didn't die. Vampires didn't die from holy water, but she diminished, became less, lost the ancient power she'd accumulated through cruelty and ritual. Guards grabbed Morgana, dragged her away. Her screams echoed through the chamber long after she disappeared. Lucian walked to Callista, to his true mate, to the woman who'd chosen him when she'd had every reason not to. It's done. She looked up at him, Thomas in her arms, Isabel and Mira pressed against her sides. What happens now? Now, he touched her face. Gentle, reverent. Now we go home. Now we build the life we want instead of the one we were forced into. Now we prove that vampire and human and hybrid can be family. And the curse, broken, changed, transformed into something better. He showed her his eyes, gold instead of red. Your love didn't just break the curse, it rewrote it. I'm still vampire, still immortal, but not cursed anymore, not alone anymore, not numb anymore. What are you then, yours? If you'll have me. Callista kissed him, right there in the council chamber, in front of vampires and hybrids and her children who'd learned that love was worth fighting for. I'll have you, today, tomorrow, for however long we get. Forever, he promised. If you want it, this bond can make you immortal too, can give you time to watch our children grow, to build the world we want them to inherit. Thomas tugged on Lucian's coat. Does this mean you're my dad now? Lucian looked down at the 5-year-old who'd been used as ritual bait, who'd survived vampire politics and ancient magic, who looked up at him with absolute trust. Only if you want me to be. Can Phantom come to the wedding? Callista laughed. Thomas has been planning our wedding since you started teaching Isabel. Lucian felt something crack in his chest, not the curse this time, something softer. The last wall between lifetimes of isolation and this moment, this family, this future. Then Phantom comes to the wedding. They walked out of Crimson Vale together. Family, not bound by blood or curse or ritual, bound by choice, by love, by the decision to stand together. The blood moon hung overhead, red, heavy, indifferent to vampire politics or curses that had finally broken. But as they crossed back into Nocturne Hollow territory, the moon's light shifted, red fading to silver, a new beginning. The wedding happened 3 weeks later in Nocturne Hollow's town square under a January sky so clear the stars looked close enough to touch. Phantom wore ribbons Thomas had spent 2 days selecting. The entire town attended, human and vampire and hybrid, children from the schoolhouse, parents who'd learned that Mrs. Morwen had changed vampire law itself. Lucian stood at the altar, watching Callista walk toward him in a simple white dress and felt the bond sing. "You look nervous," she whispered as she reached him. "I've never done this before. What, get married? Feel happy without waiting for it to be taken away." She squeezed his hand. "Get used to it. We have a long time to practice." Father Cornelius cleared his throat. "Dearly beloved, we gather to witness the union of Lucian Blackwood and Callista Morwen, to celebrate not just a marriage but the triumph of choice over curse, of love over law, of family over everything that tried to tear them apart." The vows were simple. Lucian promised to care, every day, for as long as they both lived, which in their case was quite a long time. Callista promised to keep saying she loved him, every day, in every way she could. "You may kiss your bride." Lucian kissed her, the kind of kiss that promised lifetimes of making up for lost time. The crowd erupted in cheers. Music started. They danced badly, stepping on each other's feet, laughing when they stumbled. Victor stood at the edge watching. Lucian caught his eye, nodded once. Victor nodded back. Apology accepted. Finally, as the last song faded, they walked to the house Lucian had prepared, a home for a family, for children who needed space to grow. Isabel, Mira, and Thomas burst out as they reached the door. "We wanted to make sure you came home," Isabel said. Callista knelt down. "We'll always come home. That's what family does." Thomas tugged on Lucian's hand. "Can we have breakfast tomorrow? All of us, like a real family." "Breakfast tomorrow, all of us, because that's what we are." They went inside together. Just love, freely chosen, freely given, forever. 6 months later, Callista stood at the schoolhouse blackboard teaching 30 students, human vampire and hybrid mixed together, proving that Nocturne Hollow's new laws worked. Lucian watched from the doorway. He did this often, came to observe his wife teaching his children, learning his kingdom, becoming something better than what he'd inherited. Callista caught his eye, smiled. The bond hummed between them, steady and permanent. She mouthed, "I love you." He mouthed back, "Forever." Later that night, after the children were asleep, Lucian found Callista on the porch. She was looking up at the stars, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. "You know," he said, sitting beside her, "I suspected. Father Cornelius confirmed it this morning." She looked at him. Is this?" "It's perfect. You're perfect." He couldn't find words. A child, his child, their child, proof that life could come from love instead of curse. "We'll need a bigger house. I'll build you a home. For our children, all of them, the ones we have, the ones we'll have, the ones we'll collect along the way." Callista laughed. "Is that what we're doing to collecting children?" "It's what you did for me." Cole elected a vampire king who'd forgotten how to live. He pulled her close. "I love you. I love you too." They sat on the porch until the stars began to fade. Until the world they'd built together settled around them like a promise kept. Lucian Blackwood, Vampire King. Father, husband to the woman who'd reminded him how to be human. And Callista Blackwood, teacher, mother, true mate, Vampire Queen. Together. Forever. Exactly as they'd promised. The blood moon had risen red and threatening, but it had set on something better. A new kingdom, a new law, a new family, and love that would outlast eternity itself.